What's up? Hey, hello everyone. Wow. So today, following up our video from a few weeks ago where we reacted to the Challenge USA cast, specifically the Survivor cast members, today we are going to be talking about the first episode, the premiere of the Challenge USA. So my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and the Challenge USA sure is the challenge. I feel like the challenge, I always forget how, it's such a different experience from, what I'm used to in reality TV. But it's very much the challenge. Like, if you were to, scroll through and, land on an episode of the challenge, I feel like you would know what it was if you were, familiar with it. So,
Definitely. I feel like every episode, similar to Survivor, you have like the challenge, the first challenge that they do, and then a second challenge. Like Survivor, you might have a first reward challenge and then the immunity challenge as a second challenge. And then people might get voted in and then they do the challenge to get eliminated. Survivor, you go to tribal council and you vote someone out. So, if you watch Survivor and you're listening to us talk about the Challenge USA, maybe you've seen Survivor before, maybe you have seen the challenge before, or maybe you haven't seen the challenge before and this is your first taste of the challenge because of this CBS crossover. So, in this video, we're going to talk about whether we think the Challenge USA is worth watching this season. And I think overall, I would say yes, it's worth watching. It's easy to watch. It's right after Big Brother on Wednesdays. Or if you didn't want to pay for Paramount Plus to watch it live, if you don't have cable, you could wait and then it's free on CBS the day after and then you could watch it. So it's so accessible. I think it's definitely unlike watching Beyond the Edge after Survivor. After Survivor and Beyond the Edge comes on, you turn that TV off. But after Big Brother airs, you can just keep your TV on and watch the challenge. So I would say, yes, it is worth watching.
I feel like I mostly agree, but depending on how they do some of the twists in this season of the challenge, I might end up disagreeing. Just because we'll talk about the main twist at the end because it's something that was revealed at the end of the episode, but I feel like depending on how that goes will be how I feel about this season of the challenge, I think.
I really liked how in this premiere episode they gave some background information about who these people are, their original CBS show that they were on, and sort of like a little bit of background information about what happened on their original shows, like, oh, who has beef, or who maybe has history, or who has dated one another, who had a fling or not. So I really liked how they showed that. And then they had some like flashbacks of these people on their original shows, and then they had photos of people from like their childhood or other things that they were referencing. So I really liked that because it seems like reading Reddit comments, a lot of people might not be familiar with the challenge and they might not be familiar with all of these different shows that are coming together.
Yeah, I was actually surprised because I don't know if I blanked on this when we were looking at the cast list or if I don't know, I didn't recognize them, but I watched exactly one season of Love Island like 5 years ago. And the couple from Love Island that is on, well, one of the couples from Love Island that is on the episode of The Challenge is the couple that I was like obsessed with when I watched Love Island 5 years ago. And so it was like a nice trip down memory lane. Their previous CBS shows. If you're really invested in some of them, I feel like this would be a fun time.
Yeah, I also thought that seeing the Love Island couples who have since broken up since the show was aired is interesting. I think that's like the most interesting drama right now because you can see the tea on Reddit from Reddit sleuthers. Oh, this person unfollowed that person. Let me look at their photos. Oh, they stopped tagging each other. They stopped commenting on photos. I think they've broken up. But now seeing them interacting and speaking in confessionals about their relationship and the other person and what has happened since the show gives you more information than those Reddit sleuthers just like, ah, these people unfollowed each other. I wonder what's up.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I feel like it's also a really great organic way to create beef in the beginning episodes. So,
Yeah, we need more of that kind of drama. So we go and see this house that they're staying in for the Challenge USA filming. It's a big warehouse. It honestly reminds me of one of the seasons recently for the challenge MTV where they stayed in a bunker house. This really looks like that kind of, it's just big open spaces. It's not like the mansions that they usually stay in on the MTV challenge where it's separate rooms, they have a big pool, they have like everything they need. This is like, oh, you're in an IKEA.
Yeah, I feel like everything is very big, kind of sterile. It's not as bad as whatever episode of or whatever season of the challenge they watched where they were in like a fucking underground bunker. But like it was interesting. There's like no doors anywhere in this house. So that's going to be a yikes.
That's what I was thinking. At least for strategizing, everyone can see if you're sitting on those couches talking to one another because there are no like doors. We didn't really see many secret areas that people can hide in where they can secretly chat to one another. And that bedroom, oh my God, that would be a big no for me. Those bunk beds, they are twin XL. They are so tiny. It's like a college dorm, but worse, there is no privacy at all. I would not want to sleep on one of those.
Yeah, no. Ugh. It's like they're so close together that you literally reach out and could touch the person next to you. Like, ugh.
That's why if I were there, I'd be like, we need to start voting people out right now because we need some of these bunks to clear out because it's too close quarters right now. Alyssa,
Also,
when
they didn't separate the genders, did they?
No. Well, regular challenge, anyone can sleep wherever.
Huh.
For
I didn't know that.
College, Alyssa, did you do lower bunk or upper bunk?
We never had bunks.
Oh, lucky you. That's exciting.
We had 2 beds in a pretty small room. But I had a bunk bed growing up and I was the top bunk. So
okay. Yeah, in my freshman year of college, it was a triple room. So one of the bunks was like lofted above the 2 desks, and then one is like a regular bunk bed. And I remember we have like that group chat before you go into school freshman year, and everyone, they like claimed bunks, my roommates. And so like they claimed them first, where they said, oh, I want the top bunk of the loft and I want the top bunk of the bunk bed. So then I got with the like bottom bunk, which you would think, oh, no one would want the bottom bunk because everyone can see you. It's less privacy. But actually, the bottom bunk was the best because it was the biggest. And during move-in day, one of the roommates that was on the lofted bunk, she was climbing up the ladder and actually fell off and hit her head while climbing up the ladder. So the bottom bunk is the move, I think. But in the challenge house here, I think I would take top bunk. It has more privacy because not everyone can see you.
Yeah, I just feel like in general, this is just too much. They're all too close together. They're going to vote people out, just like you said, so they can get some of the bunks open. Strategy depending on where you want to sleep.
I wonder if you can push the bunk beds together, create a mega bunk.
I mean, I feel like they're bolted down, but I don't know why I think that, so.
Yeah, could be in the IKEA warehouse, and then after the show, they move them all out, and then they do something else with that space.
Yeah.
So we go to see everyone start at the daily challenge. TJ's like, this season is going to be in pairs. However, I'm not going to assign pairs. Y'all can pick your own partners. Go, shoo shoo, everyone pick your own partners. And so it's interesting for the strategy here. Do you pick someone you just met maybe one day ago from a different show than you, or do you stick with someone you already know from your previous show?
I feel like a lot of people kind of just went with whoever was like closest physically to them rather than like wanting a specific partner. But it was really interesting because I feel like there were more cross-show pairs than I anticipated, but I wasn't sure if that was like intentional or if people were just like, hey, want to be partners to the person closest to them.
It's interesting because a different show pair, you have protection from more people, like we saw in this episode, the Survivor and Big Brother people. We're going to keep each other protected because of who won this daily challenge. If you do the same show, you might have an upper hand because you are familiar with your partner. You know their like communication style, you know what they're good at or bad at because you sort of know each each other already. So you could have a little bit of an upper hand there versus if you are with a stranger, someone you just met, you might have different communication styles. You might not know necessarily the strengths and weaknesses of your partner. So I feel like that's really interesting. But I think it's what you were saying. Everyone was trying to be too nice. Since this is day one, it's the first challenge. If someone asked you, hey, do you want to be your partner? Like, no one was really going to be saying no here because it'd be awkward. Everyone is new. They don't really want to make enemies that quick. But I'm like, dang, we really need someone like CT here to just straight up say no to someone's face like he did to Cam.
Yeah, I like it when there's drama about the picking of partners, but it kind of becomes irrelevant because we learned that these are not going to be their permanent partners. So I wonder if maybe people had an inkling of that, and that's why they decided not to like make too big of a fuss.
Yeah. Do you think you would have picked someone from the same show or a different show? I feel like personally for me, I would try for a different show, but also I would just say yes to whoever asked me because it'd be too awkward to say no.
I would pick someone from a different show just because then there's double the chance that they'll keep you safe.
Yeah, exactly. So something interesting from Tyson's podcast, the Ringer podcast. You can listen to it on Spotify. I was listening to it. He was recapping the episode 1 for this Challenge USA season. I recommend it. It was really fascinating because he talked about like the behind the scenes, talked about casting, talked about his training for this season, and specifically for this picking partners section, he said that he originally had wanted Sarah, like they were standing next to each other, and he said, hey, Sarah, let's partner up, even though Tyson doesn't really like Sarah. But then Sarah said no to him and said that, hey, we should split up. We should do a cross show pairing. So then that's why we see Tyson saying, Angela, 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 because Tyson was saying that Enzo was just about to ask Angela to be his partner. And then Tyson swooped in. And that's why you see him saying Angela a lot. And then that's how Tyson got to be Angela's partner. And then Sarah and Enzo were partners.
Well, that's interesting. I like that. And I like that Sarah was like nudging Tyson to do something more strategic. So
I agree. I'm like, that'd be so interesting to see that kind of confessional on the show. Like, why did certain people end up with other people? Was it because they're just standing next to that person? Or was there more strategy with this? Like Sarah saying, no, Tyson, don't be my partner. We're both Survivor. Go be partners with someone else. So I think that'd be really interesting. I think something else really fascinating would be the confessionals for this episode. Danny, Azza, and Kyland, they had the most confessionals with 8, which makes sense. Azza and Kyland were the losing pair from this daily challenge, so they get thrown into elimination automatically. Danny having the most number of confessionals, I was surprised by because I felt like it didn't feel like he was getting that many confessionals. It seemed like he got a lot of talk about him not wanting to be partners with Shan because Danny's wife was saying don't be partners with her. So it felt like we got a lot of that. But to see Danny having the most also, I was like, wow, that's something to note because that means they really want us to see him and hear him talk and his thoughts and stuff.
I wonder how much of that is his background as a professional football player. Just because it's like maybe they think that he's going to hype them up. But I don't know for sure. I feel like also with this many people, I feel like it's even harder to put weight into confessional counts, at least at the beginning. Just because getting everyone a confessional, I'm not even sure I saw everyone on screen. Like, if it weren't for the daily mission, I feel like I would have been like, who are half these people? So
I would have thought that Tyson had the most confessionals. It really feels like he was the star of this main first episode. Maybe he's building to be the star of the Challenge USA, being on the promotional posters and everything. So it really felt like he would be the winner here with the most number of confessionals. So I was surprised about that. Tyson was actually one of the people tied with the third most number of confessionals with 6, tied along with Angela, Selly, Shannon, Tiffany, and Tyson. Makes sense with those people. James was actually the second most confessional getter with 7, which also makes sense given what happens with the rest of the episode.
do you know how many people got 0 confessionals?
Yeah, so the funny thing, David had 0. And for anyone who also watches Big Brother and knows David from Big Brother, that's sort of funny given David's history.
Yeah, I don't watch Big Brother, so that means nothing to me. So I was like, David, David, do I know someone named David?
Yeah, he's a character, and I think like the sort of joke is that he just keeps being invited back to these CBS shows, even though like a man of few words, maybe not that interesting, but in David's second season of Big Brother, he was invited back to All Stars after he was eliminated first on his original season. And the big joke was like, David played a power to save himself, but then he was asking everyone in the house, "Oh, did you play this power to save me?" But everyone knew that he played the power on himself. So everyone was like, "David, why are you asking people this?" Because he played it on himself and everyone knew that he played it on himself. So they just thought he was like a big jokester.
Huh.
So yeah, David had 0, which is sort of funny given his history.
Okay. That's tips from Rachel. Yeah.
See, that's the stuff you miss if you like don't see the other shows. So it's good that they gave background for like the important histories of people. Like, you know,
Yeah, it's like there's a whole cinematic universe here.
that's true. So we get to this daily mission, and the challenge is called Down to Do the Math, where you have to rappel down a 22-story building and do math problems. I thought this challenge, it was really cool to see the first time, the first groups going and doing it, but the repetition of seeing all of these teams do the exact same thing over and over and over again, I thought it was too long and sort of boring. You're just watching the same thing over and over.
Yeah, it was. I think it could have been useful to have like some sort of montage scene, just because you're kind of just watching these people come down a building and shout numbers at themselves and each other. Especially because I feel like the most interesting heat was the first one where someone got the answer wrong. And then so everything felt less interesting after that.
Exactly. I really don't like these challenges that run in heats like this. I would rather see a challenge where everyone competes at the same time because it's more interesting, it goes by quicker, and it's not just watching the same thing over and over and over again. And with challenges that all run at the same time, everyone is doing the exact same thing at the same time. You can't be funky with the times, you never know if there's some time manipulation happening here. Probably not, but I just think when you can see it for yourself, it makes it more interesting.
Yeah, this thing was so boring. Like by the time we got to the seventh round, I was like, okay, let's wrap it up. We did not need to spend this long.
Yeah, unless someone was going to be like super scared of heights, I was really surprised we didn't see more people standing at the top, maybe crying or being super nervous or scared to go down. Everyone did really well, even though there were some people that were scared of heights. Because on the main MTV show, every single time there's a heights challenge, we see people DQ themselves because they don't want to do it. And then they sit out, and then TJ is so disappointed and mad at them. But it's like, dang, everyone here did the heights challenge, even though some people were afraid. I was really surprised we didn't see more people maybe more scared or like having a public breakdown because of the heights.
I feel like part of it is like the first challenge. You don't want to be a wimp, especially like because you just picked your partner. Like you don't want your partner to regret picking you. And then also, like of all the heights challenges, I feel like the one like this one isn't that bad. Like you're very securely harnessed in. It's not like you're jumping out of a plane or something. Like you're fine.
Yeah, you probably also don't want to disappoint TJ. If this is your first show and then TJ's just going to be, nah, you're done. Like you are going to get picked on by him throughout the entire time you're out there if you DQ yourself on the first challenge. Like you would never live that down, I feel like. I think something to make this challenge more interesting would be if you had to do PEMDAS, the order of operations when going down, rather than just doing, okay, 5 times 2 plus 10, and then just seeing it when you're rappelling down the building. Because if you had to memorize, okay, this is a string of 7, 10, combinations, and then you have to do the order of operations. It makes it a lot harder than maybe we would have seen more people have to go up and do it a second time because they failed it the first time. But when it's like 50 times 7 and then plus 2 minus 5, it's sort of, I think they could have made it harder.
The thing is, I feel like in the challenge, sometimes they're like a little embarrassingly bad at math. I feel like we talked about this the last time we talked about the challenge, where like they have some math problems that are really easy, but then people still can't solve. So I guess like I personally do not think that watching someone go up 22 flights of stairs is that interesting either. So I don't really care that more people didn't have to go back up, because watching people run upstairs isn't my idea of a fun way to spend my night. So
That's true. I was like, it'd be more interesting if not just Kyland and Azza had to do it twice, because after they failed it the first time, you're like, oh, if no one else has to do it twice, they're obviously going to be the people into elimination. So that's what we saw. Last place was Kyland and Azza because they didn't get it the first time. So they're automatically sent to the elimination where they have to verse another team to stay or go home. And I do like when they do this where the last place team in the daily challenge goes into elimination, because it makes it so that everyone has to try. You can't have people DQ themselves, or you can't have people go purposefully really slow or not care or rest because they don't care if they're last or not. So I do really like how last place goes into elimination.
I do too.
So the top 3 teams, TJ says, are separated by 17 seconds between Danny and Shan as a team, Tyson and Angela as a team, and Desi and Cinco as a team. So the winners are Tyson and Angela, and I feel like having especially Tyson in power this first episode is really going to set the tone for the season and how the strategy will work. I feel like if another team, maybe like a Love Island pair, won this first challenge, it would maybe make it so, hey, let's not strategize, let's all be buddy-buddy. But because Tyson and Angela were in power, I think they're really going to hit the ground running, and like, this is how we're going to play. We're going to set the strategy up to 10 right now from the start, rather than trying not to step on anyone's toes.
I do think it's interesting though, because they kind of didn't really set it up to 10, because they kept people from Survivor and Big Brother safe. Like, if you're gonna set the precedent of like, oh, we're gonna keep our own show safe, that's not really the most strategically interesting thing that you could do. Like, if you're Tyson or Angela and you're like, well, I think that like Sarah can beat me at the final, like send in Sarah, you know? So I feel like there definitely was some strategy going on, but I'm not sure I would call it going up to 10, just because they kind of did, I would say, the equivalent of the easy vote out in Survivor.
That's true. We'll say the scale was to 100. So 10 out of 100. But yeah, I agree. Like I think they're setting the tone up nicely, because the future episodes, like with the twist at the end, which we'll talk about, I think that throws a wrench in people's plans where they just can't do this easy thing anymore. But I think for the first vote, you sort of do want to play it safe. But I do think because Tyson and Angela were in power, it also sets the tone for like, hey, how are we going to talk to the people in power? How are we going to strategize? Are we allowed to strategize with other people, or is this going to be like a Boston Rob? No one can talk to any other show, but everyone can only talk to the people in power. So I think it's interesting when you do have someone like strategically capable like Tyson in power. It can really set the tone in other ways, not just, oh, we're going to vote in Love Island people, you know?
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting because there was some strategy going down where people realized, like, oh, if you want to make sure that you're not the one thrown in, you need to make sure that it makes sense for Tyson not to throw you in. So I think Tyson is definitely being perceived as a big strategic powerhouse. So that might not be a good thing for him going forward.
It's interesting because it's like in the chat in Survivor, it's like if you are seen as the strategic mastermind, the powerhouse person like Tyson is being perceived right now, people would vote you out because they're like, hey, you're going to win this game. But it's sort of maybe a little bit of the opposite in the challenge, where if Tyson puffs his feathers so much and he's like, I'm a pro cyclist, I did college swimming, I did XYZ, people might be afraid to go against him and throw him in, because if he loses that elimination, then he comes back. And Tyson's capable of winning daily missions. So if he comes back and gets back into power, your butt is going into the elimination arena. So it could be the case that, yeah, people see that Tyson is super strategic and maybe a front runner right now, although it is only episode 1, but I feel like also some people might be afraid of Tyson, because if you were in elimination, I wouldn't want to go against Tyson, because he's I wouldn't want to go against Tyson, Danny, Sarah. They're like really, really fit.
The thing is, Tyson never has to go in, because I'm kind of annoyed that this round, the only thing that you have to do is either win a daily mission or like steal enough money from other couples in order to get to the final. Because it's like Tyson and Angela won one daily mission and now they're eligible to run the final. So that's kind of annoying. Like I like the skulls better because it forced people to send themselves in sometimes, and that could shake things up. So
that's true. That's interesting. I think like the money thing, why is it 5,000? Like that's so much to win, in just Tyson and Angela both have 6,000 now, so they already qualify. So I see what you're saying. Maybe the skulls would be better, because then you see a thing like Jay in elimination and CT sending himself in, and then spoiler, not winning. So if you throw yourself into elimination to try to get to the final and you lose, that's a lot more interesting than, hey, Tyson and Angela are challenge rich right now. They are set if no one wants to try to steal their money.
Yeah, which is lame.
So we see it is between Selly and Giovanni versus Shannon and James for the team that is going to be thrown in against the losing team of Kyland and Azza. So I really wish we saw more of the strategy here. I liked the flashback scene to James strategizing. I thought that was really cool. James is such a big fan. I remember seeing when he was on The Amazing Race, him and his partner, they posted like YouTube videos of them practicing the Amazing Race challenges. Like they made the challenges at their house and they were practicing like balance and stuff, popular The Amazing Race challenges. So I think James, this is a great episode for him. He really showed his strategic chops here.
Yeah, I really like seeing it too. James kind of masterminded the whole thing by making sure that people didn't think that Shannon would be an easy target to vote out. And so because he was able to make Azza afraid to face Shannon, or I guess Azza and Kylan afraid to face Shannon and himself, it's kind of like he almost single-handedly kept himself from elimination. So that's pretty lit.
Yeah, and from Tyson's podcast, he was saying that Selly and Giovanni didn't really do much campaigning. And it would have been interesting to see more of this strategizing, because Tyson was saying in the podcast how he persuaded Kyland from wanting to verse Selly and Giovanni, or wanting to verse Shannon and James to want to verse Selly and Giovanni. So sort of manipulating and tricking Kyland into switching his target from wanting to go in the elimination with Shannon and James, switching it to Selly and Giovanni. So Kyland thinks it's now his idea to want to go against Selly and Giovanni, rather than, Tyson's idea or James's idea to go against Selly and Giovanni. So I feel like it would have been so interesting to see that kind of manipulation. Hey, I have a new idea. Let me trick you into liking my idea more. I feel like that would be so fascinating to watch.
That would be, but also I feel like it's a little bit above the like strategy grade of the challenge. I feel like the challenge is definitely not as strategic as Survivor. So,
yeah. I thought the bar scene was funny. It was so funny to watch. Like all the Love Island girls were like dancing, twerking, having a good time. And then you pan to like all of the other people sitting down in the background, strategizing around them. I just thought that juxtaposition was just so funny.
Yeah. All the old people being boring.
Yeah, the Love Island girls were there having a good time at the bar scene. I was like, this is great. They're just living their life, and then all the old people around them are just watching.
Yeah.
So we get to this final challenge. It is Selly and Giovanni versus Kyland and Azza in a challenge called Not So Fast, where you have to go through this A-frame, try to get the heavy rope and make it all tied up, super complicated, and then you switch frames, and then you have to try to untangle the other team's rope to win the challenge.
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting challenge because you kind of have to think about how like gassed out you're going to be after you do your rope, and like maybe your strategy is you don't do as complicated of a thing for your rope so that you have energy to untie, or maybe you think of like a really complicated knot that doesn't take a lot of physical strength to do but takes a lot of like mental, like, oh, how do we untie this? So I think it would have been interesting to hear more about the strategy of how they did what they did, because I feel like a lot of like this final challenge was just them yelling at each other to pull the rope and lift the rope, and I was like, okay, but what are you doing?
I agree. I think with the editing of these like elimination challenges, especially on the MTV proper show, especially for hall brawls, like they do so many cuts and it's so annoying because I just want to see them run in the hall and then do the hit. And then they're like, "Oh, let me look at their feet, let me look at their hands, let me look at their head. Oh, 3 seconds." And then oh, we're at the hit. It's like, "No, let's just see the whole thing play out." Which I guess it makes sense. It's more fascinating if you have a lot of cuts in there to show what is happening, but I agree. I was like, I just see rope. Like where are we right now? So it would have been interesting to see, okay, let's go up, let's go under, let's make a knot here versus why are you so tired? Why are you not pulling the rope harder?
Yeah.
But Selly and Giovanni lose the challenge. Kyland and Azza win the challenge, so they get to steal Selly and Giovanni's money. They both have $2,000 each in their bank, and they get to go back to the rest of the house. And then TJ is like, hee hee, not so fast, everyone. You thought you were done with me, but we are going to announce this special secret twist. And he reveals this board and is saying, this season we are going to have algorithmically defined partners. So I'm excited about this. I'm glad that we got more information on this now that the show has aired, because preseason we were like questioning, oh, how will this work? So I think it's good that you can't get the same partners twice until you've been paired with everyone, and then you can't get the same partner back to back after that. Because preseason, we thought, oh, algorithmically paired partners, that might just mean production is making up pairs and they're just putting people together that they think are best for ratings. So it's actually good that, hey, you can't be paired with the same person twice, so you know it's fair. It's still like randomly chosen rather than production faking themselves as an algorithm.
To be fair, it could still be production faking themselves as an algorithm, but they would just have to do it under a certain set of rules. So.
Yeah, which is better than, oh, we think Tyson and Angela are good together. Production algorithmically pairs them every single week together. So I like how, okay, you can't get paired together. Tyson and Angela can't just steamroll this season because they can't get paired with each other again until the numbers dwindle down. So I like that rather than, hey, production likes Tyson and Angela. They want them to win. Let's just pair themselves together every single time. But at least now they have to spread out and be able to work with other people.
Yeah, I will say I kind of liked it better when it was like they eliminated opposite genders every week, and the shakeup of partners came from people swapping around after a person was eliminated, just because I feel like that created more interpersonal drama than like a random algorithm would. But you know, it's still a fun time. And I guess I said at the top of the show that this would be the thing that like made or make or break it for this season. I feel like depending on whether or not I get the sense that the algorithm is actually production, depending on how good the algorithm's partners are, I feel like that can make a big difference in how good or bad the season ends up.
I think the strategy for this algorithm will be very interesting, because one strategy could be, hey, let me vote out the weak contestants of the opposite gender. So men wanting to target weak women and then women wanting to target the weaker men, that kind of deal. Because say you're Tyson, oh, there's some woman that you don't want to be paired with, then you might try to get her sent into elimination or voted out so that you don't have to be paired with that person. Because say you get paired with someone who maybe can't run, maybe can't swim, maybe can't lift 5 pounds or 10, 15, 20 pounds and run. Maybe that person can't do puzzles. It would be a death sentence if you got paired with that person for one of these daily challenges, because then you might lose and then you would get automatically sent into elimination, where maybe then you get sent home because your partner is sort of crappy. So I feel like that could be interesting. Do you target the quote weaker people of the other gender so that you can maybe not get them as a partner, someone that you don't want to be their partner? Because if you do get someone who can't do something and, oh, it's a swimming challenge, oh, it's a running up a mountain challenge, they could seriously make you lose that and get voted out.
They could, and that would suck.
So I think that'd be an interesting strategy. Maybe another strategy, you try to vote out the strong people of the same gender, so men targeting men, women with women, when they're paired with a weak person. So say, I guess you're Tyson, you don't want Danny in the show anymore because Danny is maybe one of your biggest competition. Danny is paired with a weaker person. Maybe you try to get him thrown into elimination to try to eliminate Danny, because it's harder to win if your partner isn't that good versus, oh, like a Danny and Sarah partnership. That would be too OP. You wouldn't want to throw them into elimination because they have a lot of strengths together. So it could be easier to eliminate Tyson or eliminate Danny or eliminate Sarah when they have a weaker partner because they're held back, maybe.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I feel like the strategy really depends week to week on who gets with who, and also what they're going to go with for like the strategy paradigm of the season. Because like it could just be that depending on like if you just get paired with like a Love Island person, you're going in because like they don't really want to keep the Love Island people around, you know? And so I think it will depend.
That's why I find it really interesting with this algorithm. We can't just have every single week, oh, let's vote out the rookies, like on the MTV main show. Here, let's vote out Love Island people, because chances are you won't have that many, or you might not even have one full Love Island pair again. Because if you dwindle Love Island down so much, then you'll have to start taking shots at Big Brother, Amazing Race, Survivor. So it will be interesting because there definitely is a hierarchy within the Survivor conglomerate, within the Big Brother alliance. So like to see who's at the bottom of the hierarchy within these TV shows. So it's like, oh, someone we don't really know is paired with a Love Island person. Sucks for you, even though you're Survivor. Bye, you're going to go into elimination because we don't care for you as much, versus someone who's more ingratiated with the TV show. I think that would be really interesting to see, like the pecking order of these TV shows.
Yep, and I feel like we're definitely going to see that as the numbers dwindle. I feel like the big thing is just the challenge starts with such a wide field. Like there's so many people. And so I feel like it takes longer to get into like the actual strategy as opposed to just like the easy votes, just because there's so many of them.
Yeah, like you were saying with Tyson and Angela just picking a Love Island duo, maybe we'll see a few more weeks of that because there are so many people. Reminds me of Australian Survivor, where there's also like 24 people starting the season. It's just like people everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, let us know in the comments your thoughts on the challenge premiere. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Who are you rooting for this season? Also, let us know in the comments if you'd want to see us do more The Challenge USA recaps or not.
Yeah, let us know all that and more. Also, put the name of your favorite The Challenge player in the comments below, because I guess I want to know if everyone else like somehow knows about the challenge except for me. So yeah, let us know all that and more in the comments down below, and we will see you guys next time.